Okay, I'm going to show you 5 ways that you can make beats like Kanye West. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a big star like him, but it'll definitely make your beats sound better. So you ready to go? Let's do it. All right, so number 1 is it's all about what you use. See, back in the day, Kanye, he used to use the MPC 2000, the ASR 10, and a turntable. That was pretty much it. He would sample a lot. So he used vinyl, sometimes CDs, whatever. He would chop up some sample and just rearrange it and do whatever he wanted to do with it. So by doing that, he came up with this totally different sound that nobody else was really doing at the time. And today, obviously, it's different, right? You know, not a lot of people are going to be using the APC 2000 or an ASR or whatever. So you can do that with any kind of controller. It could be a keyboard controller. It could be something like Machine or the Akai MPC X, something like that. Something that you could sample into and you could chop up and do stuff with it. Which leads me to step number 2, is playing with the pitch. So Kanye is very famous for this, right? So he would sample something like a vocal sample, like somebody singing, okay? He would take that, then he'd chop that up a bit, and he would spread it like with the ASR 10. He'd spread that across all the keys. Then he'd start playing with different keys, like the high-pitched ones, whatever. So he'd get that high-pitched vocal snippet, and then he would arrange that into his beat and create something totally different. Now, this is done a lot today. I like to do it myself when I pitch it down a lot. I like to pitch stuff down a lot. So he likes the squeaky, like chipmunk sound and all that stuff. I'm not a big fan of that, but some people are really into that still. So if you want to do that, or if you want to pitch it down, you could come up with something completely different. And the advantage of pitching it down is that you can have something that is like, you know, kind of gutter and things like that if you're really looking for that. But also it stretches out the sample in a way because it's elongating that sample because it's playing at a lower pitch. So you could try something like that. All right, number 3 is less is more. All right, now one of the things is when you're making beats is that, you know, sometimes you're not content with it. You want to keep adding to it. You think something's missing and all that. And sometimes it is missing, but it's just that you're better off leaving it as is and keeping it as minimal as possible. Because don't forget, if you're making a beat that's going to be used for someone to be singing over or rapping over or whatever, you're going to want to leave room for the vocalist, right? So that means you want to keep it minimal. So it has to bang, but it has to also make sense, right? You don't want something that's going to overpower the vocal track. So that means that, you know, you can't have too many instruments in there. Sometimes you need to have certain instruments in there that are going to be on top of each other, whatever. It's best to keep those for like an intro, outro, or for the hook. But otherwise, you got to make sure you get like something like 16 bars. You know, you got to leave some space for the vocals. All right, step 4 is to use catchy samples. Now, I'm not saying that you have to sample, but if you are sampling, it's best to find something that's very catchy. What Kanye used to do was he would get something that's very soulful, a lot of soulful samples. He would take that and he would either chop it or you just loop it. You know, actually he's pretty famous for pretty much looping it. But definitely, you know, you could take something and then, you know, something that actually sounds good. If it sounds good to begin with, obviously it's going to sound good in your beat. Because if you have this really nice sample that sounds really, really good, then you take that and you structure your beat around that. And that's what will make your beat sound a hell of a lot better because you have something great to start with. All right, and step 5 is that your drums must bang. Now that means you got to have drums that sound really, really good because even though Kanye's very popular and all that, not all his beats are great. Okay, I mean, some are better than others, obviously. But one thing he does have consistently is that he has very, very good drums. Okay, they bang pretty hard and all that. So you got to make sure that they're up front and center. They bang hard. Not all beats need drums that really, really bang, but it definitely helps because it gets people nodding their head and it brings the whole beat all together. It brings everything all together. If you have drums that are really hitting hard, it's gonna make a big difference. All right, so that's it. If you follow those 5 steps, I guarantee you that your beats will improve. They will sound better. Maybe not on the Kanye level, but definitely better.